Looking for stories that are fresh and new? Dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, cyberpunk, alternate history, and more. They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. From 24 award-winning authors and illustrators, plus art and writing tips and bonus stories. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Buy your copy at galaxypress.com, Amazon, or wherever books are sold.
Oh,
Looking for something new in dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, alternative history? They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. Get the 10-volume box set with 159 stories and full-color illustrations plus 34 articles with writings and art tips. Get the UPRN discount, $125 for the entire box set. That's a $60 savings for that beautiful box set. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Go to uprntalkradio.com, click on the link, and place your order.
hey, good evening, everybody. How are you tonight? Welcome to Into the Night with Shawn Kelly and Tara. Right now, Tara's, let's pray for Tara because she's going through some really hard times right now. And so she won't be able to make it. Just say some prayers. I would truly appreciate it. I know you didn't, Johnny. I'm glad you didn't forget about me. I'm very honored you're in the room. So, wow, what a week. Okay. All kinds of crazy things going on in my life, going out there in the world. And it is the month of October. And yes, it is the Halloween season. So from what I understand, there's a lot of good gory films on, good, all kinds of good stuff going on TV and, looking at all the Halloween candies out there and, all the horror movies that are going to be happening and all the costumes everyone's getting ready for. And next week, where I'm at in Pittsburgh, it's going to be cold. Yeah, it's going to be cold, thank God. Today we had 86, 87 degrees, and it's kind of hot up in my office right now, but that's okay. So we're in October, and the October Awareness Month it has to do with depression. So it's crazy that it just seems like every month comes up. It seems like somehow I can get into the awareness, like the depression and stuff like that. This last week, it was really, really tough on me. All kinds of crap going on in my head. And, it's crazy because I really try to work on my depression and stuff like that. And, it's kind of hard, but I don't know. But I'm going to get through this. We're going to have a good show tonight. We are on UPRN Talk Radio 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And sit back, enjoy. We're here for 2 hours. Hello, May. Good to see you, hon. Good to see you. And so how was everybody else's week? Everybody else's week was pretty good? I hope so. But don't forget, at the end of the show tonight, I'm going to pull 3 more cards for everybody. So, the animal medicine cards, and see what happens. And if anybody was here listening to last week's show and you happen to have, you were there and looked at those animal cards I pulled for you last week, if you want to share about it, please do in the chat room. Now, without further ado, okay, my guest tonight is a very good friend of mine. Um, he is the co-host of the Church of Mabus, which is on Friday night. I want to say he'll tell us 8 to 9 on Friday nights, something like that. I don't know, but he is a co-host of the Church of Mabus, and every now and then you can catch him on news on the flip side with Joe Montaldo on Friday nights from 10 to 1. And without ado, I am going to bring in my friend Jay McNichols. Hey, Jay,
Shawn,
welcome.
how's it going?
Great. Now that we got the show going and all the stuff is out.
So far, no hiccups, but there is Mercury retrograde up there still. So,
Oh, is it? That's right. Isn't that until the 16th?
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something to like 16th. Yeah, let's see. What do you think of Mercury in retrograde?
To be honest, all it is just from us on the point of view on the ground is we look up and it looks like the planet Mars is going in the opposite direction. But everyone assigns every sort of bad luck thing to it. So, your coffee tastes bad. It's Mercury retrograde. Your computer starts acting up. It's Mercury retrograde. So it's just I guess for the paranormal guys now, it's just it's a paranormal catchphrase anymore. I don't think there's any actual negative effects from it, but who knows? There's no way to measure it. So,
you know what? There are times that I truly believe Mercury is in retrograde. I had a lot of crazy stuff happen. And the big one was I used to make important decisions in retrograde, and man, they would just fall through. So I learned my lesson.
Yeah, I think it's the same as the full moon on a Friday night. It's just coincidence that however many bad things happen during retrograde.
I just I don't know. So honestly, and I do this whenever I know, because my friends are telling me, Shawn, retrograde coming up. I'll kind of like just say, okay, I'm not going to buy nothing electronic. I'm not going to make no major decisions. Hey, Cindy Mitch, good to see you, hon. Good to see you. And I don't make no decisions, and I don't buy no electronics. I don't buy no cars or whatever. And I just let it pass. I smooth sail, The only time I go on my computer during retrograde is when I go and do my shows, So it's kind of funny, like, yeah. So, Jay, my people, my viewers and listeners, tell us about yourself.
Well, let's see. I started looking into the paranormal probably when I was about 11. 1972-73, Hurricane Agnes came through the area. I was in Maryland at the time, and it cut off power on the eastern seaboard to most parts for a couple of months. And so we were without power for about almost a month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And so what do you do when you're a kid and you have no electricity and the gutters are full of water? You go outside and you swim in the gutter, or you do stuff in the house until you're bored to tears. So we did everything we could ever do on those weeks. And finally, like, my parents had boxes and boxes of books in the basement, most of which they lost. But the ones that they saved, we started looking through them, and I found Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods. And I would have been 6 or 7 or 8, somewhere in that age range when I found that book. And I thought, well, that's cool. There's a rock in this book with gears on it. And I thought to myself, that's an unusual thing. But I'm 8. So what does an 8-year-old kid do with a book about ancient history? You toss it over your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So the next couple of years go by, about 9, 10, 11 now, I find the book again, and then I read it. And so from that point on, I've been off and on investigating. I don't really look so much into the ghost and goblin type aspect of paranormal, but cryptids and aliens and UFOs I've been looking at fairly steady for, you guys can do the math. My math is terrible. I was 11, I'm 56. That's how long I've been doing it.
Oh, wow. And did you do a lot of investigations?
No, like I said, just a kid starting off. So mostly what I did was just research, either through a book, whether I found a really unique book at the library or a book at the bookstore, but mostly documentaries. I've seen just about every documentary there is on UFOs. I have most of them on DVD right now. And there's a few that I tried to get my hands on, but never could. So we can fast forward a few years when I'm in college in Savannah, Georgia. I was working at a place called Real Collections, and I believe it was an offshoot music and movie offshoot of Sam Goody, that music and art company. But anyway, so we were expecting a new a DVD, and I forget what month it was. It was in the summer, May, June, July. And this UFO documentary was supposed to come out, and all the stuff came out on a Wednesday night. So we got our shipments in on a Tuesday night. So that Wednesday night, we closed the store. We have an hour so we could put the new stuff out on the shelves for people to pick up. So I was off that Tuesday, but I was working that Wednesday that I would be able to pick up my new DVD. And it was called UFOs Above Top Secret. And I don't remember who produced it, but allegedly it was supposed to have the same footage that Rod Serling's documentary in the 80s or 70s had. The footage of a UFO coming down on McMurdo Air Force Base, which was at that time Edwards, in the 1950s. Okay. So we're supposed to have the live footage of this alien craft landing on the tarmac in Edwards Air Force Base in the 1950s. Aliens come out, they meet with the Joint Chiefs staff, they go into a hangar base or a hangar building, and then it's not a 2-hour video, it's just them getting out of the air, and then there's another quick shot of them coming back out of that building with Joint Chiefs staff shaking hands, getting on their spaceship and flying away. They promised it to Rod Serling on his video. I forget the name of it, but if you ever watched any UFO documentaries, the one that's narrated by Rod Serling, he was supposed to have that footage too, but at the last minute, the Army pulled the plug on it. And in his video, Rod Serling, all they could do was to put up the storyboards of how they were going to film or how they were going to put this footage onto the end of their film. So the same thing happened with this thing. Only with this movie, armed FBI gentlemen actually came to the store, and I wasn't there that evening. Like I said, I was off. But armed gentlemen, FBI gentlemen in suits and ties came to the store right as they closed at like 10 to 9 or 10 to 10, whatever time it was that we closed. Waited for the gates to come down, and they took every box, every DVD, every crate that had that movie in it with them to wherever they went with it. And this was in the 90s. Seriously. Really? Yeah. Wow. Countrywide. I'm sure a couple of people got theirs, or might have gotten theirs early. A few might have slipped through the gauntlet, but yeah, I mean the entire, I don't know how many DVDs, but countrywide from Alaska to Florida, just scooped up by NSA Men in Black types.
What do you think of the Men in Black?
I think there's two different kinds. You got the NSA CIA type. Those are humans, and then you got the ones who are allegedly either Arcturians or Pleiadians. Kind of mostly they pass for humans, but if you were to examine them with Dr. McCoy's little thingy, you would say, "Oh, this man's a Klingon, Spock." So there's the alien type Men in Black, and then there's the human type Men in Black, and I think both has sinister, ulterior motives. But
do you think they work together?
Probably not.
Okay,
I wouldn't think so. The Men in Black alien story that I know about at least the Arcturian or the Pleiadian type aliens is with Gene Roddenberry and the Council of Nine back in the late 60s, when he was writing for the second season of Star Trek. He kind of hit a wall, and it's alleged that a group of, or one or two or three Men in Black types visited him at his studios on the back lot of Paramount, which was where Desilu Studios were. And if anyone doesn't know who Desilu Studios is, that's Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball Studios. They're the ones who really got the ball rolling for Star Trek. Anyway, so they visited him in his offices there, and they told him, "Hey, we like your show. We think it's great, but some things you got, some things you didn't. So here's the things you didn't get. We're part of a federation of planets of some 120, 180 different solar systems with 60 to 80 different races, and blah blah blah, this and that and the other thing." And then, lo and behold, the very next season, Star Trek, the Enterprise, used to be under a company called UESP, the United Earth Space Probe Agency. That's the season 1. Season 2, they're now all of a sudden under the auspices of the United Federation of Planets. So allegedly, this is where Gene got that idea, was from this liaison between these men in black who were bringing messages from the Council of Nine to Gene Roddenberry. And I was just watching Aliens last night, oddly enough, and I forget the title of it. But they said he also participated in several seances throughout the 60s and 70s that were, Ouija board type seances in contacting the Council of the Nine. So sounds like many of the ideas that he put in Star Trek, he may have gotten from friends a little bit further away.
Yeah. The Arcturians, what are they? What's the name of them?
Arcturians, I think, is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, that's what I think it is. Jay, you worked with my next door neighbor at Sam Goody's, Kent Miller.
Oh, okay, cool, Gary. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, like I said, the real collections was in Savannah. It was a Sam Goody, parent company.
So back to the alien crap, and I tell everybody with me about aliens and UFOs. I've been doing radio for 5 years now. Okay, and from Chasing Prophecy to Into the Night, and a couple other shows. I tell people, I know what a ghost looks like because I saw a ghost. For me, do I believe aliens and UFOs exist? I do. Okay. But I need to see one. You know what I mean? I need to actually see a UFO come in my backyard and land and see an ET climb out of that freaking UFO. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at it like this. I mean, I don't judge anybody. I respect what everybody believes in, but even though I do believe, I also need to see it too. Johnny Freeman says he has seen the UFO.
Yeah, I've seen a couple. Yeah, there are two kinds of UFOs out there, just like there are two kinds of men in black. There are UFOs that are ours, and there are UFOs that are theirs, and you can't tell until you crack them open and see who's inside.
Hi, Mandy. Hi, Virginia. Good. Thank you for stopping in. Yeah, so I like what you had to say. I never heard of us having our own UFOs and the aliens having their own. Can you explain that a little bit more, please?
Well, so we've had several presidents who've been in on this secret, but the first one who really got in on the ground floor was Eisenhower, and you've probably heard his great granddaughter talking about the Greada Treaty, which he allegedly an exopolitical agreement between us and them, and us being Eisenhower's administration and staff, and then them being the aliens of the Greys from Zeta Reticuli, the reptilians from Draco. I don't know the other part of the Draco constellation, but they're from Draco constellation, and then the insect order or praying mantis like alien race, and I don't know where they're from. I wish I did, but in any event, it was alleged that 4 different races actually contacted Eisenhower in the 50s as he was president-elect and or as president. And the first group to allegedly talk to him was what we affectionately known as either the Pleiadians or the Anunnaki, those who claim to be the ones who built our species. And he rejected them out of sight, out of hand. And allegedly, the same 4 races also talked to Hitler few years earlier in Germany during and before World War II. So what happens is they enter into an agreement with Eisenhower, tentatively allowing them to abduct 1 million humans. And I'm sure there's no detail on this, but I'm sure he probably meant for them to only abduct Americans, not the whole planet, in exchange for their technology, so we can improve our way of life and technology, et cetera, yada, yada. But what happened is that as soon after they started this alleged treaty, they realized that they were being duped, that the group of aliens were abducting more than 1 million of people a year. They were abducting more people outside of the United States than they actually were supposed to. And then whatever technology they did give us was either obsolete or worthless, or they did not honor their end of the bargain. So at some point, it's alleged that we're actually at war with these same three races. But it's a well-hidden war, and you can kind of see it. If anyone's done any kind of math following World War II, our peacetime budget after World War II has steadily increased every year for decades. We're now into the 400, 500, 700 trillion dollar wartime, peacetime budget for war machines. Come on. Somewhere there's a war going on that we don't know about. And then Trump goes, "Oh, I've invented the space fleet. There's the new armed forces, the space forces. Allegedly that's been around since the 60s also. So, Trump may have been around in the 60s, but I very seriously doubt that he was in the government at that time. And I don't think that
I don't
he's
think
there
so
as a benchmark for the space fleet to be announced, but he had nothing to do with it. So,
well, Gary says to him, it's too much James T. Kirk stuff. You know what I mean? When they were doing Star Trek, because I know I never followed it, and I know you probably did. Do you think they took the shows that they had on Star Trek? Do you think they took actual evidence and put it on the show, or try to get the show across to people that aliens and this stuff does exist?
I don't think that was the main emphasis of the show. The show was mainly basically. So Gene Roddenberry was in World War II. He was a fighter pilot. He was a bomber pilot. He came out of World War II with nothing. He had no career goal really at that point. So he had to find something to do. He had just had a wife and child after the war. So the real premise behind Star Trek is to make money. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just strictly for him a way to make money cheaply and quickly. His idea was more to be like a space opera set in kind of like a Western. Well, he called it a wagon train to the stars. So at the time, the big TV shows on the 50s and 60s were, Wagon Train, Have Gun Will Travel, the Chuck Connor Show, The Rifleman, all these like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 shows a week through 3 networks that were all, Western based. So that was his idea, was to get a space opera in outer space with the idea of it being like a Western space opera. I don't think there was a whole lot of reality as far as the aliens that they were talking about, but the technology, they wanted to be, straight-laced, complete, factual, or hypothetical, possible in the future technology. They weren't really necessarily trying to drop a bomb like, hey, by the way, we've been visited by aliens from other planets for centuries, and here's what they look like. No, it wasn't that kind of a deal. It was strictly for making money and getting some stories out there. I very seriously doubt that there was any sort of debunking and or desensitization program to get people used to the idea of aliens. I think that comes a little bit later in Star Trek's careers and the spinoffs we've had since, but Star Trek's just a moneymaker. I mean, it started. Look at what it did for Star Wars and other even comic books. I mean, in the 70s, before you had any kind of conventions, there were book conventions. People would go to these book conventions and you would talk to the authors and talk to the publishers and see what books are coming out next year or later in the year, get some books signed and whatnot. Gene Roddenberry, all the fans of Star Trek, they homed in on that, and they took over those 70s book conventions and turned them into Star Trek conventions. And here we are 50 some years later, and you've got San Diego Comic-Con is huge, or there's like 60, 70, 80,000 people a day goes
Wow.
through that building or through that convention. You've got Dragon Con on the Eastern Seaboard, which is about the same thing. You got 30, 40, 50,000 people going through these doorways for these hotels on a 3 or 4 day basis every year. It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
Wow. Sebastian says that Blue Beam as in a hologram audio and visual invasion. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, Sebastian, because, you know, I do see YouTube channels, and I also do TikTok, you know what I mean? And a lot of that stuff, honest to God, is Blue Beam. I swear to God, I'm a full believer of Project Blue Beam. Putting up the hologram of the Virgin Mary. You know what I mean? I know they couldn't. I don't know. My question with the Blue Beam, and this is to me, is that they were supposed to launch off a simulated alien attack from outer space. And I just want to know, since it's the 21st century, do you think people would actually believe in that stuff, that they actually saw that up in the skies? Excuse my stomach, dude. Been having bad.
Well, some of those holograms I've seen, there was the one, I think it was in Holland, and it's sort of like a blue spiral vortex in the sky above the night sky. I don't think that was a natural phenomenon, and I have a degree in video production, so I mean, I really can't give an honest opinion on it, other than the fact that it looked fake. So, I mean, if the images are fake enough looking, some people would be easily fooled, but most people who go to the movies every day, I don't think they're gonna, I think they're gonna see through it. If it's a bad hologram, yeah, I don't think it's gonna work.
I don't either. I'll just sit back. I'll probably get some popcorn, dude.
Just watch all the morons running around shooting each other.
Sebastian said, good question, Shawn. As some do think that ET/Alien is a psyop. Hundreds of TV shows, films, books, and magazines. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's a psyop. So you have, if you look back throughout history, particularly in the movie theaters and TV shows, what did they have? In the 50s, what did they have? The 50s, it was all propaganda. It was all war, mostly war stuff, newsreels, updates on what's happening in World War II, et cetera, et cetera. And then, war dramas, that kind of nature. And then the next big popular movies during the 50s and 60s were Western dramas. And then you start to see a paradigm shift, in the 60s and 70s. In the 60s, you start seeing a little bit more, schlocky B-roll, slimy green alien monsters come to attack Earth kind of movies. And then as they progress on through the 70s, they get a little less slimy. You go on through the 80s and 90s, they get, more and more human-like looking. And then you get to the point where you have, artificial intelligences, like with the Terminator robots and the Transformers and that kind of thing. So the fact is that they do exist. Aliens do exist. It's mathematically impossible, first of all. But there is a part of Hollywood that is a part of the desensitization program that's starting to get those images out to you. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Paul, with one of the Star Trek alums, the guy that plays the new Scotty. It's kind of a funny movie. It's kind of goofy, but Paul says the alien's name is Paul in the movie. Hope I'm not spoiling it for anybody. He says, "Look, you've been seeing my face splattered on lunchboxes and T-shirts for the last several decades. There's a reason behind that. They don't really actually look quite that weird, but they're wanting to get those images and the idea out there that we aren't alone in the universe, so that when any one race does decide to announce themselves, we're not going to pull out the daddy's old side-by-side shotgun and blow them away." So
Sebastian says when people reported such things as UFO sightings, the MSM often become sarcastic with witnesses and would mention the usual little green men nonsense, and eventually become the alien gray large head.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of confusion behind that. There's more than one type of gray alien. Let's just put it that way. There's at least 5 different cataloged species that if you or me, Shawn, anybody were to see, we go, oh look, there's a gray head alien. But they all have different, very subtle differences, but differences nonetheless that makes it so that under further investigation you find out which ones are which and which ones are not which. Some are good, some are bad. Just like we have people here. We have good people, we have bad people. They have good aliens, they have bad aliens. The current gray aliens that we're dealing with right now, there's actually 2 or 3 different genotypes of them. There's the short ones and the tall ones seem to be biological, and the short ones seem to be biomechanical, if not either some sort of a clone or some sort of programmed biomechanism.
Right.
In any event, they're not friendly. Throughout my years of looking into the at least alien stuff, they've been good, they've been bad, they've been good, they've been bad. And I'm talking just the gray aliens throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've been alive since 1966, so started investigating this stuff in the mid 70s. They've flip-flopped, being good and bad and good and bad all the decades I've been doing this. And right now, I think they're currently on the bad side of the ticker scale. But they don't have our better interests in mind. They don't have they don't have a whole lot of friends in the alien community, but they are working with the reptilians and the insects. So as a group, those 3 are pretty powerful. It's if they gain control, it's probably not going to be good for the rest of us. So right now, keep your hopes up that the good guys actually do begin to help us. The way that I understand it is that the reticulans, the Zeta reticulans, the gray aliens we're talking about, have been at war with the Anunnaki race, people, those who came from heaven or whatever that they say on Ancient Aliens, which is a wrong interpretation of that word. Anunnaki actually means of the sons of Anu. It does not have anything to do with those who came from the heavens to earth. Those words, there's none of those. Those words do not line up. I've researched that. They do not line up. But in any event, they've been at war with the Anunnaki for tens of thousands of years, 15, 20,000, 30,000 years. And they're not good.
Wow.
Not good people.
That kind of like opened my mind, because to me, I always thought that the Anunnaki, from what I studied or researched, was that they actually came down and told the king's squire what to write down, and it was written down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they are responsible for the bulk of our civilization. Absolutely. They're probably a good species. I've never met one, so I can't say for sure. But everyone always asks, well, what kind of? How can you prove that the aliens have been on this planet? Well, first of all, language comes out of our vocal cords, right? How do you translate that to paper? It's kind of hard. So we didn't have any written languages until the Sumerian cuneiform. And then, so what do they do with the cuneiform? As soon as they invent language, what do they do with the language, Shawn? They write Star Wars. They write Star Wars on a clay tablet. And like these aliens come down, they did this, they messed with our DNA, they did that, they did this. How do you write this? It's the first, you just invented language. What would be the first thing a language would be invented would say? There's monkeys over there. They taste good. Go get them.
True.
That's what the first language of a primitive race is going to sound like. Is there's food over there. Go get it. Here's how you cook it. Not aliens came down from space and kidnapped us and messed with our DNA and functionally changed us into a different species.
Yeah.
This is not the first story you write when you're writing a language. They basically wrote the Star Wars saga on a clay tablet 6, 7, 8,000 years ago.
Wow. That's craziness, man. It's interesting. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Virginia says, do you remember the slee stacks? I never heard of them.
Yeah.
What are those?
You've seen, you never saw the show Land of the Lost?
Oh my God, maybe once or twice. That's about it. Really was never really into that stuff.
The bad guys in that were the slee stacks. Yeah, it's like lizard creatures that were deathly afraid of the sun.
There's my buddy Tony. Hey Tony, good to see you. Good to see you, bud. I hope New Orleans was good for you, buddy. So, okay, Jay. So I want to wrap it up. What is your final? Not the show. Just this portion of the show.
Oh, it's early still, isn't it?
No, just this part. What I like to do is I like to take a topic and go a half hour with it. You know what I mean? And then
Cool.
go to another one. And Johnny's listening. Johnny's a good dude, man. Johnny's a good dude. All my people are good dudes. Everyone good dudes and dudettes. You know, everyone. But what is your final? What's your final thought on aliens and UFOs?
Well, as I said earlier in the beginning, we've got two kinds of UFOs. Some are theirs, some are ours. We've got at least at minimum right now, minimum 4 to 6 races of alien species visiting this planet on a daily basis. At least 3 of them are not necessarily very good. They don't necessarily have our better interests in hand. They are definitely some even the good alien races. Why would you keep secret the fact that you're an alien species? There's some kind of ulterior motive there. So we can't be 100%, the good guys are good and 100% the bad guys are bad. We need to evaluate the information very clearly. And like I said, we've had many presidents starting since at least Truman, maybe sooner, but at least Truman onwards till today, where they've had to debrief the president on this information. And some of the presidents have been given a lot of the information, and some presidents have been like, look, there's UFOs, deal with it. And they're not told any much more than that. And Bill Clinton was one of those. He was not told the basic gist of what the alien agenda is. And I'm not even sure that the entire government knows, but there are enough compartmentalized government agencies through CIA, FBI, the 3-letter guys, and then the one 2-letter, 2-number guys, MJ12, Magic 12, somewhere in between all of those abbreviated government agencies, therein lies the entire truth.
Hell, they lie now. So.
Yeah, you think they lie now? Wait till you find out why they're not telling us the whole story. And then that also goes back to Eisenhower. And if we were to find out the actual whole truth of why what happened with the aliens in the Greada Treaty, I guarantee you, this country, everyone in this country, even people that don't have guns, that hate guns and hate guns, would rise up against the government. They would want to absolutely turn the government over on its ear.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And like I said, I won't get political. I'm behaving now that you're on the show. And these are good people.
We'll save that for Friday.
But real quick, and then I'll go. Then we'll go to another topic. A lot I've heard through guests that we had on Chasing Prophecy that the Queen of England and the royal family are part of the reptilian aliens. Have you ever heard of that? Or
yeah,
what's your take on it?
Well, until I see an actual reptilian polymorph or change its outer look to look like a human being or something else, I'm going to hold in reserve on the shape shifting kind of thing. I don't know that they don't exist, but I don't know that they do exist. So that we'll kind of leave that in kind of limbo. But think about it. If you're our planet is in a unique situation where most planets in our solar system are on a binary system. That means there's 2 suns and 2 sets of planets revolving all around each other. Most solar systems are binary, trinary, and quaternary. That's 2 suns, 3 suns, or 4 suns. We're kind of odd in the fact that we're one sun. We're not in a cluster of other nearby solar systems, what we call our local neighborhood. We're kind of in between solar arm or radial arms of the galaxy. So we're set off to be unique and out by ourselves. We can be a petri dish. So if you're an alien race or several alien races and you come to this planet and you start mining for materials you need, you're not going to do the mining yourself. I mean, this is written down in the Sumerian and Anunnaki traditions. Our planet is just too harsh if you weren't born here. We weren't born here, and it's still it destroys our skin. The sun destroys our skin, and we're supposed to get vitamin D from the sun, but it also gives us cancer. So it's kind of you have to, but you need to stay careful away of the sun. But think of an alien species. It's even worse for them. So how do you make your slave race? You make it out of the creatures on that planet. You're mining stuff on the mountains. You go to the mountains and you farm DNA material from creatures in that area to mine stuff up there. If you go to the beaches, you don't bring a creature that's used to lesser oxygen and lighter conditions in the mountains and bring them down to the ocean city. They wouldn't be able to function. So you use DNA from creatures that are in that area. So the same thing that the aliens did when they created the human race, they needed to mine materials from all over the planet, not just in Egypt and not just in South America, but all over the planet. So again, you don't take a desert dwelling creature and take him 9 miles up on a mountain and say, here, dig rocks.
No,
the creature's not going to make it. It's just the environment is too harsh for them. It would take them years, months, and decades even to get used to it. So by doing that, by diversifying their experiment and making different types of humans out of different types of creatures throughout the planet, that's why we have black skin, white skin, red skin, yellow skin. People always ask why. Well, there you go. They needed to make different species, different versions of our species to do different tasks.
Yeah, just
so
like
therefore,
ahead.
Therefore, there's got to be different species of them that can pass and look like us. And some of them have been in government, and some of them have not. We had a guy in the United States government that wasn't really. He was more of an exopolitical advisor called Valiant Thor.
I've heard a lot about him. Yeah,
he represented the Council of the Nine, and he was given immediate VIP status when he met with, I believe it was Eisenhower first. Met with Eisenhower, and he stayed in for 3 or 4 years before they realized that Eisenhower was not going to have any kind of treaty with them, so he left. But yeah, so those types of creatures that have, let's just say they have reptilian features, like the queen and her family, that's probably a genetic marker placed into them by whatever alien race created their direct species line or their direct haplogroup, if you will. So, yeah, I absolutely think that they might be aligned towards the reptilians, but are they reptilian? I don't know. That's a tough question, but just think about how all of us have different types of colors of skin and different types of, our faces are different. Some have long, skinny noses. Some have flat, squash noses. Right. All those types of DNA things are because of previous DNA markers from ancestor to ancestor. So if you're an alien race and you used your alien DNA to create a new species, there you go. There's probably a gray alien somewhere in government in our country and in other countries. There's probably insectoid types. I mean, look at people around the world. You can see people that have like insectoid kind of features. There are people that have kind of almost like caveman-like quality to their face because their nose is squished and their brow ridge is pronounced. You can see it. But are they actual aliens? I think it's more of a hybrid at that point.
Yeah, and my friend Virginia says she calls them hybrids too.
Yeah.
But she said something a little bit earlier, Virginia did. She said she knew someone who said he was abducted by aliens, and sadly, no one believed him. That is sad. Virginia, I know people who actually work with abductees. I believe that, and I'm sorry that people didn't believe him. I hope he's okay with what happened to him now.
Fortunately, though, with the abduction phenomenon, there's enough people out there that have done enough studies on it that it's an actual phenomenon. I mean, Dr. John Mack really did the pioneering work up in the Boston University area, dealing with the Betty and Barney Hill incident, which was the landmark event, really. But I mean, he wasn't the first guy to examine the Betty and Barney Hill. His predecessor at the same university, Boston University, started that investigation. And then when he left the office, he gave that John Mack took over his position, and he took over the Betty and Barney Hill investigation. And he went going in as a skeptic. He did not believe aliens were the root cause. He did not believe creatures from another planet were coming here, grabbing people up, knocking them out, making them forget things, and doing experiments on them. And you have to also remember, back in the 60s, we didn't have amniocentesis. They didn't have that test for pregnancy and that test for is the child healthy, or is it going to be, mutated, or, brain damage or whatnot. They didn't have that test. When you went to the doctors in the 1960s to find out if you were pregnant, they physically killed a rabbit. They got a rabbit out of the wherever in the hospital, and they used your DNA and they injected it into the rabbit. If the rabbit died, you were pregnant. That's how barbaric it was back then.
Oh my God.
So she describes amniocentesis, which we now have. We now know is an excellent device for medical practitioners to determine the health of the baby, the health of the mama, what's going on. What sex is the baby? Is it is the baby oriented right? We didn't have a lot of these tests back in the 60s. It's just like set someone on fire and let them go. You've never had a baby before, just roll with it. You'll figure it out. Now we have so much stuff on it. Making babies now is like taking a Kodak. You have the picture in seconds. Mm-hmm. But anyway, John Mack went in as a skeptic, and then for years and years and years, he kept doing this researching everyone who's ever claimed to be abducted by aliens. And he is 100%, he's dead now, but he was 100% convinced that it's an actual phenomenon, that something real is going on. Not something imagined, not something hallucinated, not something implanted, but something real is going on. And he didn't go so far as to say that aliens exist and they're all over this part of the galaxy. But he basically said that the phenomenon is 100% real. It is not fantastic. It is not imagined. It is not hallucinatory. It is not drug induced. Think of a reason, an explanation for someone thinking they were grabbed by aliens and poked and prodded with strange metallic devices. First of all, who comes up with these ideas? Second of all, show me one person, including Betty and Barney Hill, that made any kind of profit after coming forward and saying, I was abducted by aliens. Show me one of those people that's a millionaire right now.
None.
Not a single one of them. No one has ever done this for any kind of money or profit. Why would you want to come out and say that this is happening to me and then ruin your life? Bob Lazar said it the best. He's one of the most known UFO whistleblowers. For him, it's ruined his life. He absolutely hates the fact that he came out and talked about what alien information he found about in the desert of Nevada. Mm-hmm. The fact is that it does need to be released. We all need to know. I mean, this is the tantamount to the most significant scientific discovery ever, and it's being hidden from us. And then these people that are trying to get the information out: Bob Lazar, John Mack. Name a UFO whistleblower. Name a UFO researcher. None of us, except for the guys who make successful books, are making any money and profit off it. I'm not making money. Sean's not making money off of it.
No. That's exactly my argument with all the like Ed and Lorraine Warren. Okay. I'm sure I'll lose a lot of people by saying their claim to fame has been written by books. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I have seen, I guess, Annabelle and Haunting in Connecticut, and actually did some researching on it. And I'm just thinking, this was just another ordinary freaking investigation, mm-hmm. on somebody's house. I mean, I've seen stuff thrown and and people getting hurt and stuff like that, but they wrote books. Okay, look at these big psychics that are out there right now. The ones that are all over the place, they all written books. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Honest to God, Jay, write a book. Okay, give it to Joe, have him publicize it, and I bet you make some monies. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. But I'm going to get to Virginia real quick. Fire in the Sky. Yes, when I was on Chasing Prophecy, we had that guy. What was his name again?
Travis Walton.
Yeah, we had Travis Walton on our show on Chasing Prophecy. And that was a very, very good show. And yeah, it's all for real. I do believe now, because when we were interviewing him, he did say that they were going to come out with another Fire in the Sky, part 2. Yeah. And he really could not get into He really could not get into talking too much because they were using a lot from the first movie. But I will tell everybody, since you watched the first one, he'll be the first one to tell you that he did not wake up naked at that store. He did not wake
That's
up
Hollywood,
naked.
yeah. But his case does have the uniqueness of having been scrutinized, at least locally, during the 5 or 6 days he was missing. There were active like community gatherings where they got together in a certain part where he disappeared and went looking for him for 5 or 6 days after that. I mean, we're talking state troopers, police, local friends, neighbors, what have you. We're looking for this guy for 5, 6 days straight, and no one found him. And I'm sorry, I mean, I don't know, even if you're in a wilderness area like where they were as loggers and journeymen, you're not hiding from your entire town for 5 or 6 days straight unless you're out of town.
Mm-hmm.
He was out of town. He wasn't anywhere near those buildings, those cities, those houses, or those logger lands where he was cutting down trees. He was gone. Way gone.
Virginia, he said that he wasn't happy with how they did the movie. This is true. It is true. He wasn't happy with it.
The only person I know who was happy with the way Hollywood treated their book or their story is Peter Benchley. Peter Benchley wrote a little book called Jaws. And sure, some of you out there have seen that movie that's called Jaws. You may not realize it, but Jaws is a horror movie. You do not see the killer until the last few minutes of the movie. When he does kill, you hear a particular musical theme that always announces, like Jason, right? You hear the music, the shark is coming, you know someone's going to get eaten up. That book ended with, Peter Benchley wrote this, and he's in the movie. Peter Benchley wrote the books. At the end of the movie, or the end of the book, the guy, the little sheriff guy who's afraid of water, he does something to the boat and sinks the boat and traps the shark, and the shark and the boat sink to the bottom of the ocean, and you never hear the shark again. What a lame ending for a Hollywood movie. So what did they do? What Hollywood do? They shove a big old scuba tank in the shark's mouth, and then the little scared, I'm afraid of the ocean sheriff guy takes out his rifle and boom. And what does he say at the end? Come on, you son of a bitch, smile. And boom. And he hits the tank, and the shark's face explodes, and there's all this blood and gore in the water. Only time in history that I know of, and Peter Benchley, if he was still alive, probably agree with me, only time that I know of in history where Hollywood actually made the book better.
Okay.
Think about it. You go to the theater, you pay $20 right now for a movie. $20 just to get in. You pay another $20 for a bucket of corn and a bucket of cola. Then you go and you sit down and you watch this movie for 2 hours. You're watching this invisible shark go around and killing all these people in this little tiny little harbor village. And then at the end, the boat just sinks with the shark and it dies. I would be furious. I'd be wanting my money back. I want my $20 back for that. That was the worst movie I've ever seen. But then you blow the shark up. What do you get? You get a Hollywood blockbuster. And Jaws, to be honest, is the one that really coined the phrase blockbuster. It had people going around the block to see that naked girl get eaten up in a movie. Guarantee you, best draw-in of a movie ever made is put in a hot naked Olympic swimmer and have her get chewed up by a shark. You'll have a blockbuster.
That's true. So at 9 o'clock, we're going to usually take a break. Okay, about a minute break. And but is there anybody out there? My friend Johnny, he was saying that he did travel the universe, and Johnny, I believe you, and I need to get you in. Oh boy. I get things like this.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, you'll bolt upright. Oh yeah, and him. I need to get him on the show.
Yeah, I need to get Johnny and Virginia on here to tell their experiences. Hopefully, we'll get them in sometime during this month. I'll give you a call later, John, or I'll talk to you tomorrow. But we're getting close. Is there anybody out there in the chat room that has a question for my friend Jay? Please type one in. You need, if you want to know how old Jay is, post it in the comment. Hey Jay, how old are you? Come on up. I mean, it was a very interesting first hour of the show. Jay. I learned a lot more than what I have been, told or taught in the past 5 years. And that was been pretty interesting. Sebastian Moran says he's my buddy. He's from England, I do believe. The director of Jaws went on to make Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Taken.
I don't think Spielberg directed Taken. Taken's a good movie with Liam Neeson, but Spielberg did direct Jaws and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, is that the one where they say E.T. go home?
Close Encounters of the Third Kind is the one with Richard Dreyfuss, and he's like a Tennessee lineman or something like that, and he gets some sort of he gets a UFO sunburn message in his brain somehow that makes him go psycho, and he goes to find other people like that. Like there's a woman he hooks up with later in the movie. He builds he destroys his house by building a giant Devil's Tower thing in the house. And then he goes and finds aliens that are bringing back people from the UFO from the Bermuda Triangle. Great movie, but no, that's not E.T. Phone Home. That's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. That's also Spielberg, but different decade.
Sebastian says Taken is a TV show by Spielberg.
Oh, he may be the first movie he definitely wasn't involved in. The first movie is European. It's a really, really good series, though. I haven't seen the Taken TV show, but I did like the Liam Neeson movie franchise. Very good movies.
Virginia has a question for you, buddy. Go ahead, finish up with Sebastian. What is your personal experience with UFOs, Jay?
So, like the very first one is about the same time as when I found Von Daniken's book in the early 70s, maybe 76, 7, 8, somewhere around that range, mid to late 70s. My brother and two of our friends from our neighborhood, they were also brothers, oddly enough. So my brother and I and our friends who were also brothers were walking in the woods. And behind the houses, we had like this huge swath of like cutout wilderness that the high power lines went through. So we got like those big metal things that have the high tension wires. We had those running through our backyard basically. So we were walking down there. I don't remember what we were going to do, whatever kids mission we had for that afternoon. And as we're walking, I'm in the front and I have a big like a walking stick because where I live at that time was in Maryland is fraught with copperhead snakes. Copperhead snakes are very aggressive. They will actually chase you down, especially if you're a little kid, and they will bite the snot out of you until you die. So we didn't want that. So I was walking forward with a big stick, and a copperhead comes out in front of me on the path and blocks my path. And they're like, how typical snakes, they stand up and they go, well, it's doing that to me. And I'm holding my stick in front so it'll bite the stick first and not me. And it was weird. I was scared out of my mind. I thought for sure I was going to get bitten, but the snake kind of looks up behind me and then darts off the opposite direction from where it came. So it comes in on one side of the trail, hisses at me, and then keeps on going across the trail the other direction, disappears. And I turned around to tell my brother that, and I can see my brother's hand is coming at me, and he grabs me by the shoulder and points my face up. And there's a UFO right above the power lines. Now, these power line things, these metal things, what are they? 300 feet tall, maybe. So this thing was just about the top of that tower. So 350 feet, 320 feet, up in the air above us. And it was a brass. Everyone always says, "Oh, it's silver or it's shiny." Well, it was kind of shiny, but it was gold shiny. It was like brass or I don't want to say rose gold, but maybe brushed gold in color. And it had a symbol, a sigil on the center of it underneath. And like you've seen the symbols for the planets, Shawn, like Pluto has a symbol and Saturn. It was a symbol that looked kind of like the Saturn sigil. It's kind of like a weird script H with some weird flourishes on it. Kind of looked like that, but it wasn't an H. I mean, it was close. And we watched it for I don't know how many seconds, 30, 40, 50 seconds. Then it just went and darted straight up. So that was my first experience with the UFO. And I haven't seen anything like that since. I mean, yes, I've seen other UFOs and other craft in the air since, but never anyone that had a symbol on it, and especially not a symbol. I mean, it was like, like you're driving down the road and you're like, oh, what kind of car is that? You got to wait till you get on top of it before you can see. Oh, it's a Mercedes, it's a Dodge, it's a Chevy. This was like almost advertising. We're a Mercedes Benz. This is what model spaceship we're flying. Yeah, it was definitely it was a conspicuous mark. It was really where I'm going. Most of them don't have conspicuous marks like that.
Maybe it was the head honcho, man. Maybe it was the main CEO of the alien species that.
Yeah, it could have been the HMFIC for this area. Yeah,
but I hope you, Virginia. So Jermaine Carr says, "Don't worry, they are looking for me." And Jermaine Carr goes, "That's my mothership. I had saw." That's cool. But listen, it's 9 o'clock, everybody. It's time to take that minute break. So if you have to go to the bathroom or go get something to drink, we'll be back in about a minute, and we'll
about
start
61
with
seconds.
61 seconds. All right. So everybody, please. Enjoy the hour, half hour, whatever, the minute break. Come on.
Looking for something new in dark fantasy, humor, space exploration, time travel, alternative history? They're in the L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future anthology. Get the 10-volume box set with 159 stories and full color illustrations plus 34 articles with writings and art tips. Get the UPRN discount, $125 for the entire box set. That's a $60 savings for that beautiful box set. L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Go to uprntalkradio.com, click on the link, and place your order.
There we go. It's been a minute. I hope everybody got some tea, got to the birthday, bath, and whatever they had to do. But I will tell you in future down the road that we're going to have like 2-minute, 3-minute commercial breaks, especially our show. It's going to be like at the beginning of the show, in the middle, and the top. So I'm just getting you prepared for more commercials, but that's okay. We need to keep these commercials going. I also want to talk about Joe's programs that he has on UPRN Talk Radio. You got the Church of Mabus, which is Jay. You got News on the Flip Side with Joe. You got my show Into the Night. You got Trish Mo. Hers The Missing Piece, and then you got The Outer Realm. So so if you're not doing anything during the week, and if you want to listen to a very good radio station, very good podcast, just come on to UPRN Talk Radio and listen to the other shows that they do have on here. Now, Jay, now that we can start the second hour, how did you get the show Church of Mabus? What's it all about? You and Mr. Pritchett.
Jeffrey Pritchett.
Can you show?
Yeah, so I've been on the show now since 2014. I think my first show was in December of that year, and it just, me and Jeff just happened to be Facebook friends in like the same UFO groups on Facebook, commenting on this, that, and the other thing, and we seem to usually have the same opinion on certain things. And one day he had a co-host, Beazle, who due to his new job was no longer able to continue co-hosting with Jeff. So Jeff sent out a thing on one of the Facebook groups that we were in, that he was looking for a co-host. So I said, hey, I know this stuff, so give me a try. So he interviewed a lot of people, and then he came down to the conclusion that there were two best suited guest host for him. So he chose between me and our other co-host, Wham. Wham is a female. She works in the University of New York system. I don't know exactly what school she's in. I can't remember, but she's a actual college professor, and she's super smart. She does 3 Fridays on the Church of Mabus. Then I do 3 Fridays. Then she does. Then I do. So we flip flop between doing things on there. She is really, really good with like the shamanism things that we talk about. And she's also really good with the alien and UFO abduction stories. My expertise is more on the UFOs and aliens and cryptos. But I sit in on some of the shamanistic shows as well, and alternative healing and medicine. So I've always been interested in that stuff. But my actual bag is more of the UFO alien conspiracy theories right now. I've seen Bigfoot. I've seen him up close. I don't need to investigate him anymore. He's real. That's all I got to say about that. But
where did you see him at, dude? I mean,
I saw him in of all places, Boardman, Ohio.
Okay, well, they do say that Ohio's like in the top 5 for Bigfoot.
Ohio's a really big state. It's got a good bit of wilderness, and it's situated right near. So one of the theories with Bigfoot is, why can't we see Bigfoot? Why don't we? If there's so many, if there's a breeding community, why can't we find them? Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, they actively hide from us, actively seek to avoid contact with us. And if you know about our species and you were smart, you would too. So The other thing is that they're where this part of Ohio is right on the Pennsylvania-Ohio border, Youngstown, Boardman. It's where my dad's relatives are. It's right near some underground caverns that come out from underneath the mountains. And I don't know which mountain chain it is. It's probably the Allegheny Mountains.
Are you sure not the Appalachians?
No, it's because it's west of you. Pittsburgh is like half an hour from Youngstown, Ohio. So where I saw Bigfoot is closer to you than it is to me. I'm down in the center of the state in the bottom, and you're like at the center, but you're on the eastern edge. Is it? No, yeah, you're on the far western edge. So, but anyway, there's Allegheny Mountains that go up there, and there's some caverns that come under that. But the main theory of how they are able to, such a large breeding population of Bigfoot, how they're able to avoid being detected is that we think that they travel down underneath the mountain ranges in caverns that go from Maine to Florida. So we're fairly certain that they're migratory, because the sightings generally tend to shift from heavy times of the year. Like heavy times appears like summer to autumn, and then they kind of trail off, and then they get more sightings further south in the autumn than they do up here, because they've traveled, they follow their food.
Okay.
But so basically that's the gist of that, is that the bulk of them use a cavern system that travels the length of the eastern seaboard and probably the western seaboard as well, to avoid being caught and seen by humans.
Well, but that I could see the eastern, but to me, now, if I'm not mistaken, there's that one mountain range out there in Westmoreland County, Chestnut Ridge, something like that out here, out in Westmoreland. It's not far from where I'm at. And they say that there's a lot of crypto sightings there, a lot of Bigfoot. But I also want to know that, I was always taught, or what I learned from the guests that we had on our show in Chasing Prophecy, that Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, are also like work with the UFOs. So I investigated that, and I think that the UFOs put up a portal, and they go through the portal to another dimension. Because a lot of stuff that I researched was, when a Bigfoot was sighted, there was a lot of UFO activity around in that area. What do you think?
I don't believe in that. To be honest with you, I've been looking at Bigfoot stuff about the same amount of time as the UFO stuff from like the early 70s. And if you look back 40s, 50s, 60s, the Bigfoot reports going on back then, there are very, very few reported being seen with and or near any UFO activity. Sometimes in the same regions as there as heavy UFO activity, but you never see you didn't see the report where a guy says, "Oh, by the way, I was out looking for Bigfoot, and when I saw a UFO come down, and there was Bigfoot too." Very, very rare. So I don't think there's a connection there. I think what happens later on, there are two alien space books out there. One is from the Russians, one is from the Americans, and both have very, very similar information. And within those pages, there is a creature that is somewhat Yeti and or Sasquatch-like, a technologically advanced race. I guess you could akin him to Chewbacca in Star Wars, a primitive-looking creature that utilizes advanced technology. So these creatures may be being misinterpreted as Bigfoots, and these creatures may have like a cloaking device that they can put on their arm, and they can hide, bend light around themselves, or they may have a transporter-like technology that they can, call their ship and say, "Hey, Scotty, beam me up." But transdimensional, I find that to be a little bit of a stretch, because the one that I saw, the face is way, way, way too human for it to be alien. I mean, it looked like just a regular old white dude with brown skin and wrinkly. I mean, deep wrinkles in the skin. It had a long handlebar. I mean, like, ever seen the fireman handlebar mustaches that come down like this?
Yeah,
It had a handlebar mustache like that, and then a long goatee, and the forehead was bare, the nose was bare, around the eyes was bare, in between the mustache and goatee was bare. It was so human-like that if it came from another planet, I'd be absolutely shocked. I mean, you could knock me over with a feather at that point.
Well, how do you think Bigfoot are born?
I think they're just like us. They're a primate. They may be of Australopithecus or Australopithecine genetic markers, or Gigantopithecines, which were very, very large primates. I mean, we're talking gorillas that are 12, 13 feet tall. Okay. Some Bigfoot get to be about 12, 13 feet tall. On average, I think they're more about like 10, 11 feet tall, but they're just like we have extra tall people in our species. They got extra tall ones in theirs. I don't believe they're transdimensional. I don't believe they're technologically advanced. I in fact think that they're exactly the opposite. I think they're extremely non-technical at all. I mean, sure, they probably use certain tools to advance their species and to get food, but they're not. They're just primitive, happy creatures that avoid us like the plague on purpose. And I see that, they are migration. They are migratory. They may not migrate very far, but they are migratory. This evidence is across both eastern and western seaboards.
Oh wow, that's great. I don't know, Bigfoot. It impresses me. Okay, where you were saying where you saw yours over at Boardman. Okay,
Boardman, Ohio. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I go gold prospecting over there.
Okay. Well, so you can actually go by and see the house. I'll give you some more information now after the show. But yeah, it was on Applewood Boulevard in Boardman, Ohio. My aunt's house, and I saw the creature's face through the window of a second-story window, by the way. So I'm looking at us as we were playing on this one bedroom in the upstairs. We were 5 or 6 of us, my cousins and I, were jumping around, bouncing on the beds and making noise. And then I smell this thing like someone's really soiled a diaper. And that's when I saw his face in the window, and he saw me and he screamed at me, and it put the fear of God into me like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if I hear any kind of alleged recording of a Bigfoot, if it doesn't affect me the way that first scream did, and I know it's fake.
Okay, that's interesting. My friend Daniel James, he has recordings of Bigfoot screams in house. So, yeah, but I will tell you this:
it's an unusual vocalization. It's almost impossible for our vocal cords to actually emulate it.
Exactly, and that's what he was saying too. Because I listened to it, and it, takes a lot to creep me out, and those creep me out. You know what I mean? And I don't creep out too much. But I was down. I have a friend that lives down in West Virginia.
It makes the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up
Yeah,
endwise,
it
doesn't it?
does. I'll tell you what happened. One morning, she lives up like you go up a mountain, and there's a big lake there, and she lives around that lake. And one morning we were out on her back porch and we were having coffee, right? All of a sudden, dude, okay, I just heard this massive knock. No lie, it was insane. Nobody was working that day up in the woods. Nobody was around. And I just heard that knock go like, I mean, it was normal. And her and me and her husband, we did nothing to provoke it. You know what I mean? It was just like saying, okay, I'm here. You know what I mean? Um, would I like to go out on a Bigfoot investigation? I would. I wouldn't mind going out. But I tell everybody, and a lot of people on this my show know that I am. I'm a city boy. Okay, I don't do woods. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's not just the woods. It's the woods at night. So
just that, oh my, now see that'd be crazy. I mean, I'll go gold prospecting like at dawn. You know what I mean. Where the sun is just coming up a little bit and it's getting light out, then I'm okay with it. But I quit when it starts getting dark, and I'm like, I just got to get out of there. I'm just like, because it gives me, even in the daytime, like around 11 a.m. till about 1 or 2, I get creeped out, dude, because I keep thinking, who's out there watching me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's it's weird you say that. I had the exact opposite feeling in Arizona. My parents are living in Arizona. There's no trees. They have a few, but it's not like over here where you can step out your door and walk 20 feet and you're in the woods. There's no woods in Arizona, in Phoenix. It's just desert. And the whole time I've ever was there, I always felt like something was watching me. Like I felt exposed, like a rodent that comes out from underneath the sagebrush, and all of a sudden, that's when the owl finds it, snatches it up. I felt like there was going to be like this giant bird of prey come flying out of the night sky at any time, because my parents wouldn't let me smoke in their house, even though they were smokers at one point. So I'd have to go outside. It's 12 midnight. It gets disgustingly scary dark out in the desert at night. And I'm just out there with a cigarette, and I'm like so paranoid. I'm just keep looking up in the sky, hoping that this bird doesn't come down and snatch me up and eat me. It's the exact opposite of what you're saying about how you felt creeped out about being near the woods. It's the exact. I felt creeped out about not having the woods to hide underneath. Out in Arizona.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah,
I think
I'd be.
I think I'd be okay walking down the state park on one of them roads. You know what I mean? I think, that I'm on a road, a real road, not one of them damn paths and deer paths. And knowing my luck, dude, I'd trip first and I'll be eaten alive. And I'm not talking about Bigfoot. I'm talking about like, the dog man, for instance. What's your opinion on the dog man?
Do what now?
What's your opinion on the dog?
What's my opinion on the dog man? There are a lot of cryptids out there. There are a lot of cryptids in ancient Egypt mythology. So I don't know. I haven't really looked into the dogman thing so much. We've done a few shows on it. I think the Mothman actually has a little bit more research behind it. But that's been going on since the late 50s, early 60s. I wouldn't be surprised if there is such a creature, just based on the fact that if you look back throughout history, we have all these fantastic beasts. You got cyclopses, you've got mermaids, you got merman, they have horses that are like mermaid, like a horse that lives underwater, hippocampus that actually physically looks like a horse and has hooves and webbed hooves and whatnot. But there's some basis for some of these creatures. Historians think now that the story of the Cyclops came from a hill in Greece, that the exposed side of this hill has a bunch of woolly mammoth skulls, and there's a big hole in the middle of the skull that they thought was the center eye. It's actually where the trunk for the elephant was. They think that's the basis for the Cyclops story. But think about all these monsters that we have. Just there's millions, hundreds of thousands of different monsters throughout the world. Not just Frankenstein monsters. I'm talking, Chimera and Basilisk, and go to a D&D monster manual. Look up any monster from that book has some sort of basis in history. We've got gods from Egypt with hawk faces and alligator faces and dog faces. There's a Egyptian god that's green. There's a Indian god who's blue. So it's very possible that there are some creatures out there that may appear to be humanoid dogs or humanoid cats. I just haven't done enough research behind it to really have a solid answer. But something way back when made those pictures. Something made our ancestors make those pictures. Like the alligator. What's that god in Egypt called? I forget. Sobek, I think. The ancient god Sobek. Who puts an alligator face on a human body? That's Stan Lee kind of stuff. But they're doing this back, 2000 BCE, putting weird animal heads on humans. So there's something to it.
Johnny Freeman says the problem is people that talk the most never did on the ground research.
Yeah.
That's true, buddy.
Yeah, that's probably very true.
I noticed that for me, like I've been in the paranormal field for over 30 years and had PPS from 2006 to 2022. And it's amazing when what I'm referring to is what Johnny said about, going on the ground and researching. What really bothered me the most about all that was that people would come up to me and say, "Hey, look at this! I got a ghost. I hate you know what I mean? I got this and I got that." And then here's the big deal, Jay. I'll have evidence, right? And I'll show somebody, and they knock it down. You know what I mean? They kind of like kick me in the teeth, kick me in the shins, and tell me that that's nothing, stuff like that. And I'm like, and it really bothered me at the beginning, because I'm out there trying to get evidence and to show the world, just like a brand new paranormal investigator. And then I learned a lesson not to show people my stuff.
Yeah, you got to know who to show it to.
No, yeah. And what happened was I just, and if someone has to say something about it, I said, "Were you there with me when this situation happened?" And they said, "No." And I said, "How in the hell can you judge me?"
Yeah, how can you tell me what I saw? You weren't even there. That stuff bothers me a lot. People do that, but also the thing is now I have a degree in video production with a minor in art history and a minor in still photography. Now I'm not Bruce Maccabee. I'm not going to say I'm going to have any kind of skill as Bruce Maccabee, but you give me the right technological equipment. I can look at videotape. I can look at DVD. I can look at CD. I can look at digital recordings, and I can look at any photograph, especially if you have the negative. I don't care if it's color negative, I don't care black and white negative. You show me the negative, I guarantee you my skill. I can look into this negative. I can tell you whether it's fake or it's real. It's not hard. It really isn't hard to see if there's any kind of tampering being done with either a photographic negative or digital artwork, whether it's art or video or audio. There are telltale marks of when it's been altered. Because when you record audio, it doesn't matter how many times you record audio. If I record audio all day long at one place, I'm going to have this one acoustic signature on that tape. And I take that same recorder, that same microphone, and that same actor and go to a different building and record the same scene in a different area. Those same recordings are going to look different. And if you put them together, there's going to be telltale sign where those two join up. Same with any kind of photograph, same with any kind of film, whether it's motion film or still film. You'll see breaks in the film where people have altered it or made changes to it. And there are thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of photographs from the age of photography forward with UFOs on it. That is a lot of evidence to try to debunk. It's almost impossible. Bruce
Right.
Maccabee, who I've talked about, he does a lot of he did photographic analysis for the U.S. Navy, in the in an intelligence aspect. I mean, he was looking at things. Oh yeah, this is a base for the Russians. This is a base for the Cubans. This is missiles. Yeah, he did that kind of work, so he knows what he's talking about. He hasn't really found very many ancient UFO photographs that were fake. And the ones he did fake, you can tell once he said, "Oh, this is fake." You can tell why it's fake because he shows you why it's fake. You can't debunk that kind of massive material. There's thousands and thousands of photographs, hundreds of thousands of feet of footage of UFO motion camera, motion film, video. This stuff cannot be suppressed. And no matter how much the U.S. government wants to say that it's not true, you take any of the evidence, ear witness, eyewitness, whistleblower, the photographs, and the videos, you take those to the Supreme Court right now, today, and you'd only need one of each. One video, one photo, one whistleblower, one abductee story. You could get a conviction. There's enough evidence on all of these different evidence paths that it cannot be fake. It's impossible that the U.S. government is perpetrating this hoax on the U.S. people and making us think that aliens exist and they don't.
Right.
That's the real trick right there. And that's what they're doing. They got everyone convinced it's either fake or it's real. I guarantee you it's real. And I guarantee you that the stuff that you see that's fake, that's your U.S. government trying to throw in a little bit of confusion.
No, they threw a lot of confusion in when they decided to show all those video clips of all those alien UFOs. Remember?
Well, that's the U.S. Navy. An interesting fact: the U.S. Navy seems to be working with the good set of aliens, the Anunnaki ones, the ones that approached Eisenhower first. And then the U.S. Army and Air Force seem to be working with the bad aliens, the grays, the reptiles, and the insects. Do you remember Admiral Byrd's Operation High Jump?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Some people call that the last battle of World War II, because during that time, this is 1946, we sent a flotilla of about I think 40 some odd boats, planes, and Navy men to where now McMurdo Station is on Antarctica, which is the far western edge. And they encountered not only strange disc-like planes that shot their boats in half, but there were Messerschmitts, Me-262 jet fighters that came along with some of the Germans towards the end of the war. So there's a base down there that we are now in control of, because the way it's working is in this, and I don't have any concrete evidence on it, but it seems to be the four main races that are messing with our planet. Three of them are helping out in a bad way, and they're helping the Army and the Air Force. The one good race, or maybe two good races, or maybe two, I don't know, they're working with the U.S. Navy. And there's seems to be a lot of conflict as to who's in control of our planet, whether it's us, whether it's the aliens that are helping the Navy, or whether it's the aliens that are helping the Army. And that's part of the real mystery, is who's behind the scenes here.
Why would you think the Navy's really big in the UFOs? I mean, I was in the Navy for 4 years and 30 days, and never really experienced any UFOs back in the 80s.
Well, so the U.S. Navy doesn't really. They are at the transitional phase. They get the USOs becoming UFOs, and they get the UFOs becoming USOs. So they're at the transition stage. But you'd be surprised how much information that they have. So there, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was all those strange creatures, whales and other types of baleen type creatures, the ones that make music, the whale song, were floating up on beaches all over the place, allegedly because the United States Navy was testing a new sound weapon. Well, we have sound weapons. Believe it or not, there are the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Army, and probably the Air Force too, have sonar type weapons. They used them on Saddam Hussein. They used them on that that guy in the Iran-Contra affair down in Central America. There are devices just like you see on Star Trek called like the sonic blast that can kill you with sound. Our Navy's been developing that for some time, and I can say a little bit about it now because my father's now passed away. But I asked him one time about it because he was the foremost expert on sonar for the U.S. Navy. Is there such a thing as a sonic weapon? And he said, "Well, let me put it to you like this. Yeah." So, I don't know when the sonic weapons began, but they do exist, and we've seen some of the aftermath of some of those things going off 20, 30 years ago with those certain types of creatures and strange animals from way deep, all of a sudden showing up on our beachheads. But think about it: if you're a group of alien races at war with each other, and some of your enemies get some friends on this new planet called Earth, what are you going to do? You need friends too, so you're going to find some other friends on that same planet that can help you. So I don't know how the Navy got involved with them, and because it seems that alien contact would be something that the Air Force would be, the monitor of. But it seems to be that we've got these 4 different factions of aliens. 2 of them are quite bad. Don't really have a final opinion on the Greys, but they don't seem to be the ones completely in charge anyway.
Right.
So it seems to be either the Mantis folk or the reptilian folk are actually in charge of that group of 3. But as far as I know, and that's again, there's so it's word of mouth advertising really what we're working on with as far as some of this evidence. It's just word of mouth that some of the people saying that the U.S. Navy's been working with this group for many decades to try and help the planet, and
then the Squatsman said that the Army had it first.
Army Air Force, yeah, they were one of the first with the Roswell and so on. But look at the planet. What is the planet mostly of? The planet is mostly water.
Right.
And you're an alien race. Where do you hide to watch over this planet? Besides the moon, you hide in the water. We just don't have the technology to chase them down 8 miles high, down below. Their technology is the fact that they can go all the way to the bottom of Marianas Trench, 8-9 miles below sea level, and hang out there and hold their breath for however long. We just don't have the technology to go down that far. Like getting in your car and driving to the 7-Eleven. We don't have technology where we can just let's just go down to the bottom of the ocean real quick and see what our friends are doing. We can't get down there. It's too far out of our technological path for us to get down there. And I guarantee you, 90% of the stuff that we're missing in our history, we're going to find along the coastlines under the ocean. We know less than 10% of the land that's on our planet, and 10% of the land is really like 1.3% because the land is only 29-30% of the planet. So we know more about our own moon, which is 500,000 miles away, than we do know about our own planet.
Right.
So think about it. You want to hide, you hide in the ocean, and that's where the Navy comes into effect. We still have boats, decommissioned submarines that have such top secret information to them that you'll never find out all about it. The Los Angeles class submarines, we're still using them. They're probably going to be phased out here in the next few years because we got new subs coming out. But their bottom depth is top secret still today. I can't know it. Shawn can't know it unless he's like an admiral.
that because when I was in the service,
these boats are from the 70s.
Yeah,
1970s.
I was 1981. I was in the service, the Navy, and
the Los Angeles class submarine were developed in the 1970s. Yes.
Yeah,
and we're still using them.
Mm-hmm. And so we tendered a lot of the Los Angeles class, and that was secret. They got to eat good on the boats. Mm-hmm. We called them boats, But,
yeah. The difference. The defining difference between a boat and a ship, right?
What?
So a boat may float on or under the water, a ship almost always exclusively floats on the water, but is also capable of launching and recovering other vessels like planes or other boats.
Okay. I did not know that. Virginia came up and said, I want to think what she wants to know. What do you think of mermaids?
I think there probably were at one point an actual probable extraterrestrial creature. And I think that that's probably the same for most other types of creatures. Mermaid, unicorn, cyclops. What are those guys that are half horse, half man? Centaurs. Centaurs. Yeah. Something on this planet made our ancestors draw those pictures, made us draw that god in Egypt with the green skin, or made that god with the alligator face, or drew that creature that's like part lion and part snake and part eagle, the chimera. Something came up with that. I mean, you don't like we said early in the show about the first language, Sumerian cuneiform. You don't invent language and then the next day you write the Star Wars opera. You know what I'm saying? So you don't invent artwork and then the very next day create all these hybrid creatures like centaurs and unicorns and fantasy creatures and start playing Dungeons and Dragons. So something has to inspire the artist. And this isn't art for art's sake. This is mythological. We're depicting our gods on our temple walls, and they paint this god with the face of a bird, or the face of a dog, or the face of an alligator or a crocodile. That's a warped sense of style. You don't just come up with that. Someone had to see something that it made them like, well, that's weird. Let me draw that down real quick before I throw up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Johnny agrees with you on that. He definitely agrees.
So something had to inspire like I said, they think that there's one hill in Greece with these skulls of the woolly mammoths. They think that inspired the stories of the centaurs, or not the centaurs, the cyclopses. But we have stories of giants. We have stories of all these other unique, exotic creatures. They didn't just sprout out of the ground like they say the dwarves did. It's something similar to that we saw, and we drew it on our cave walls.
Yeah. Virginia and Johnny, Virginia says there have been sightings and they look alien, and Johnny says yes, there has been. I believe in giants. I see pictures of giants. Now I know when something's CGI, dude. You know what I mean? I really do. And these pictures were not CGI'd. All right.
Yeah.
And you know what? I look at it like this. And the whole thing my thought behind everything is, so these animals are out there, these humanoids or whatever they are called are out there. And there is a reason why they are here on Earth. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there probably was some incidences with these whatever they are, the cryptos or whatever, monsters, whatever. I'm sure there have been some incidents where people did get hurt, but maybe they're here to teach us lessons. But we have to be totally open-minded about allowing, this to happen. Do I see it coming up within the next 20 years? No. I see it happening further on down. I'll be dead. You'll be dead. Okay.
Yeah.
When this crap happens. But I believe they are here for a reason. And if they really wanted to hurt somebody and take over the world, they would have done it by now. You know.
Yeah, and that's the other funny thing is people always think that you see these movies like, and it's great TV show, Falling Skies. It's about an alien invasion, and it went for seven TV seasons. Great show, great premise, but I mean, let's face it, these creatures have like a Star Wars level technology, and we're only barely at I wouldn't even say we're at Star Trek level technology yet. And if you were to put Star Trek versus Star Wars, who was going to win? I have a feeling Star Trek has a little bit tougher material to fight bad guys than Star Wars does. Star Wars, they have blaster guns. Star Trek has the photon torpedoes and shields and all this stuff like that. They both have light travel. But think about it. If there's an alien race out there, or alien races out there watching this planet, and I think Spock said it best. He said they could reach out and swat this spaceship, this planet, like it was a fly, because they have so much more vast information than we do. They could introduce a simple virus that kills off the entire planet of one species. They could introduce a weapon that destroys all of our technology. We know that there's devices out there that turn off electrical devices, EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. We can set them off and cripple our enemies. They can do the same thing to us. They've been doing it through the 60s and 70s. They turned off Malmstrom, and what was the other one? There's two different missile bases they turned off. I mean, literally, they turned off our nuclear deterrent in the 60s and 70s. Malmstrom U.S. Air Force Base. They've taunted our fighter jets. There's several stories where we've chased them and we try to get a lock on them, and then our radar starts acting funky. There's actual some I don't remember the guy's name, but there is a fighter pilot, and I think he was in the 50s or 60s, went chasing a UFO in an F-89 Sabre jet. The jet came down and he didn't. Let me rephrase that. The jet came down burned and he didn't. So, yeah, it's for them to reach out and flick us like a fly is no problem for them.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing it. Now, we're getting pretty close to the end, dude. All right. And you don't know how much I appreciate your knowledge on all this. And I would like to have you back on again, so we can talk a little bit more. But you said with the Church of Mabus that you talk a lot about shamanism. What's your thing on shamanism?
I think there's definitely something to it. It's one of those things like, ghosts and goblins, ghost hunting and ghost busting. I'm certain that there's something to do with the ghost, but there's no meter. There's no device you can go, oh yeah, that's a ghost. Like in Ghostbusters, the TV shows and the movies, they have those devices that tell them, and they call, oh, here's the ghost, boom, and then they capture it and they put it in their containment field. We don't have devices like that, unfortunately. So we can't quantify the ghost story. We can't quantify the stuff that's intangible that we can't see. Like demonic possession and all that kind of stuff. But shamanism is just, there's a way of communicating that they're able to, like, I guess, exit their bodies and go into the ethernets and talk to other creatures, including aliens and whatnot. There's alternative ways of healing the human body that they're aware of. And in Western science, actually, at one point was actually afraid of like things like Reiki and shamanistic types of healing methods, because I guess it's only an American thing where our healers and our pharmacists and pharmaceutical companies, they're out to make money. They could care less if you get better or not.
Right.
They would, in fact, rather you didn't get better so they can keep stringing you along on the drugs they make. It costs them 30 cents to make 1,000 pills, but they charge you $500 for it. Think about that.
There's a friend of mine.
Pure 100% profit.
There's a friend of mine right now. Her medicine is $25,000 a month.
A month.
A month.
Ugh.
And it's done intravenously. Okay, it's like, but $25,000 a month, dude. I don't even want to get into it. We're having a very awesome show. I want to thank Johnny and Cindy, saying it's an amazing show, that they had a good time. And I need to give a shout out to my brother, Patrick Kelly, who came in. It's good to see you in here, brother. But is there anything that what's your final moments before I put you out there, brother, in the green room?
Well, we've talked about a lot of stuff today. And a lot of it, like we said, there's no real evidence for it. We know most of it to be true through whistleblower commentary and eyewitness testimony. But don't take my word for it. Don't take Shawn's word for it. Go out and investigate. Go look it up. Most of the stuff that I know either came from a book, a documentary TV show, or an insider whom I'm unable to name because it would be bad for them. I'm able to talk about some of the top secret things that my dad revealed to me, and there weren't many because he's passed away, and there ain't much that the CIA can do against that now. But go out and look. Ferris Bueller said, if you don't look around, sometimes you're going to miss things that are going on. Look up, look down, look left, look right. And if you don't believe it, have someone else look at it.
And have an
two eyes cannot see the same hallucination.
And have an open mind. You need to have an open mind. You cannot doubt. Never. Because once, and this is what I tell people
not necessarily, but you can come in with a closed mind. I mean, look at some of the closed mind guys we've had to deal with. We had J. Allen Hynek. J. Allen Hynek is one of the hugest people in the UFO community. He's the guy that came up with the encounter, the close encounters of the first, fifth, third, fourth kind. He came up with those numbers. He went into this when he started in Project Blue Book as an absolute skeptic. His entire treatise of UFOs back then was, it's absolute BS, bunk, can't be real, no way, no way, no way, no way. And then towards the end of his career, he was the exact opposite. The Condon Report, the guy who did the Condon Report, same thing. He was paid to make a contradictory thing to debunk UFOs. And after his 3 or 4 or 5 year thing, he still produced a paper that was in the negative, but he was on the other side of that negative at that point.
Okay.
So come in with any kind of mindset you want. You're gonna flip. It's gonna open up to one way or the other.
Well, I got ghosts down now. I got demons, down. But I'm waiting for the time that I want to see a UFO. I want to see an alien. I want to see a Bigfoot. I want to see a dogman. But Jay, thank you for being on the show. I really had a good time. Virginia says, great show. Everybody, this is the most conversation that we had in a very long time. And dude, you mean the world to me, brother. I appreciate coming on. Okay. You there? He froze. Okay. Jay has frozen. All right. But that's okay. But again, everybody, we had a great show tonight. Jay, my friend, he shared a lot of stuff tonight, and I enjoyed it. It was a very, very, very interesting show. So, children, please, if you can, go to your parents and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. Jay has been abducted. LOL. And parents, please, if you can, go to your children and tell them that you love them. And if you don't have no parents, if you don't have no children, find somebody, honestly, find somebody to hug and tell them that you love them. If you see a person going crazy, not going crazy, but if you know they're not in a, thank you, May, appreciate it. If you see somebody that's having a hard time, go over and sit with them. You don't have to talk, just sit with them. Because October is Depression Awareness Month. Again, I want to thank Jay for being here. Those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And until next week, next Tuesday, happy hunting. And please, everybody, please stay safe, And again, give people a hug. I like hugs, and thank you for the virtual hug. All right, good night, Virginia. Good night, Johnny. Good night, Sebastian. Good night, May. And there's Matt. Okay, so I got a message from Jay. He said, and there's Mercury in retrograde. His computer just screwed up. And we'll see you next week too, Cindy. Oh, my cards. That's right. I'm sorry. I got a couple minutes for cards. I'm going to go. Hang around, everybody. Hang around because I'm. Oh, he's trying to get back in. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm shuffling the cards and I'm giving you 3 cards tonight: your past, your now, and your future. I want you to write these down and please Google the cards, the animals that I do pick for you. And hopefully you will have a good read, not a good reading. And there's a reason why these animals are chosen for everybody. So if it don't pertain to you, then that's okay. Come back next week. I'll draw 3 more. So the first one, this is the now. I meant the past. Okay, don't forget, write it down. The spider. That's your past card. The now card, right now, where you're in, is, whoa, it's the lynx. Oh, Jay said that his Wi-Fi is down. That's crazy. I don't know. It was a good show tonight. And the future card, okay, is the fox. Okay. So we have the spider in your past. You have the lynx as the now, and then you have the fox, which is your future. Okay. So everybody, please write those down. Google them, as totems, and you'll get your answer. Maybe the reading might be right for you. Maybe it won't be right. Who knows what's going to happen? But please do that. And then on that note, I will definitely see you next Tuesday, 8 o'clock to 10 p.m. On UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And on that night, you're welcome. You're welcome. And everybody, please have a great night, great week. See you next week. Happy hunting and all that good stuff. Hold on. Oh, boy. Hit the wrong button. And on that note, let me get out of here.